Welcome in to Cut the Killer Carbs, Dr. Justin Anderson, Metabolic Coaching. You can check out the website, metabolic-coaching.net. Of course, his phone number there directly, 448-0322. That's 448-0322. Let me say good morning once again to Dr. Justin Anderson. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Wade. It's been a long time, man.
It has. It has. It's been, what, 2-3 weeks?
Yeah, I think 3 weeks.
3? So I've had 3 shows without you that we've had guest hosts on the program on Tuesday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well,
maybe 2 weeks. It's hard to keep track summertime.
It just all kind of slips by. What was the deal? Were you in surgery or something, or what was going on?
That's right. Yeah, I had my partner was out of town 1 week, and so I had surgery one morning, and a couple of people filled in. And from what reports I get, they did a great job. And then the next week, I was out of town. Took a little summer vacation.
Oh, yes. Well, I plan to try to do the same thing next week, right? I'm going to try to escape out of here for a week or so. So hopefully I'll get that accomplished. But, you know, last minute kind of summer thing. Hey, I got to roll out of here.
Summer's almost over.
It is. It's August 1st today. And I tell you, it is really flying by. Time flies when you're having fun, right? But also time flies by when you're in good health and you're eating properly. Yeah. So
there you go.
That's what we're going to talk about.
That's a really good segue.
It is. Hey, I'm a master. I'm a master at great segues on this radio program. Just saying.
Well, years of experience.
Oh, by the way, if you have any questions, of course, you can text it in 806-745-5800. or call in 745-5800. Okay, so what's the topic today, Doctor?
Today I want to just kind of talk about some interesting low-carb questions that I've gotten from clients over the years. So this is going to be a real low-carber show for those of you who are already, into eating low carb, which is, you said earlier, cut the killer carbs, and that's cut out the grains and the sugar, the potatoes, the high carbohydrate foods. And then I get a lot of interesting questions after people get into it, and so we'll kind of get into that.
Well, you heard yesterday's program with author Dr. Davis with the wheat belly thing. He was talking all about this, and if you missed yesterday's program, it was really good. But we're finding out that more and more doctors are saying, and look, there's something to this. A friend of mine on Facebook sent me a link to a heart surgeon who had performed over 5,000 angioplasty, triple bypasses, and all this kind of stuff. He's a 30-year heart surgeon, and there was a link to this guy saying, look, by cutting out grains, lowering the carbs, eating a lot of high-fat, protein-type diets, that's where it's at. It's not with this, hey, 6 meals a day,
right,
and cut the fats.
Was that Sinatra? Or?
Well, no. What the doctor was?
Yeah.
Well, I can look it up. It's right here on my Facebook.
Well, I'll tell you. William Davis's book called Wheat Belly. That's one of the #1 books that I recommend to people because it really goes into detail of how wheat and grains. Wheat it has very high glycemic index. It affects blood sugar. It causes weight gain. Wheat causes inflammation. So that's one of the #1 books that I recommend. One of the interesting questions I got was
Dr. Dwight Lundell, MD.
Dwight Lundell.
Do you know? Have you ever heard of him?
Okay,
well, that's who it was. Okay, anyway, that was his article, or someone linked it. I've never heard of the guy, but he was like, hey, I listen to your shows, like the medical programs, and this guy's saying the same thing that you're saying.
He's done some. Dwight Lundell, I think, co-wrote or is one of the people in the books with Jimmy Moore, and Jimmy Moore has written a couple of low-carb books and co-written some cookbooks. And so Jimmy Moore's a great, interesting guy because he's just a guy who lost 100 pounds on the Atkins diet. And then he became a real crusader. He started a podcast, an early podcast, and he's done it for years and years. And then when Dr. Atkins was alive, they used to do, I think, the Atkins cruises. And so Jimmy Moore revived and put together the low-carb cruise. And so the
low carb like actual cruise ship?
Yeah, low carb cruise. And so what he'll do is he'll get a dozen speakers like Dave Asprey, and I don't know if William Davis has ever done it, and Dwight Lundell. He get all these speakers, and they'll have a low carb cruise. They have low carb food, and they have low carb speakers the whole time. I want to go.
Well, I do too. But have you done very much cruising?
I've done one, two, maybe one or two.
Okay, I've done a dozen cruises, or I think I'm up to a dozen. We used to do health cruises all the time, and I need to talk to you about that maybe after the show, but I talked to Dr. Edwards about it yesterday. We need to do those again. They're very fun and popular, but over the years I had done many of those types of cruises with Dr. Harlan Wright back in the day,
right.
Early 2000s. We went every year, taking about 40, 50 people, went and did a health cruise, 10-day here, 10-day there. But anyway, all that to say is I remember with Dr. Wright, I would say to him, we would be on the Lido deck, and I'd look at Dr. Wright and go, well, what about that? And he'd say, well, that's going to spike your insulin if you eat all that stuff, Because, I mean, cruises are notorious to...
That's why you go on the low-carb cruise.
Well, that's right. Well,
right.
Because cruises just shove a tremendous amount of food at you. And and I noticed that on a cruise, it's very weird that I've done 2 10-day cruises, and this is me. And on one cruise, I said, I'm just going to eat whatever they have, and I'll eat 24/7, and I'll just have a good time. That cruise, in 10 days, I gained 10 pounds.
Right.
On the other cruise, I took the advice of Dr. Wright at the time, saying, look, you need to watch that stuff, blah, blah, blah. I went to the gym every day. I didn't pig out, because all the food on a cruise is free, right? And I actually lost 10 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
So that just shows me right there that okay, we're
the same guy.
We're working on something.
Cruise.
Yeah. But because there are things on a cruise that you can avoid. I mean, you stay with the meats and the eggs and all that.
I'll tell you, there's a really interesting movie, and you can check it out. I think you can catch it on YouTube. It's called Fathead the Movie.
Oh, Fathead.
Fathead the Movie, and
okay.
it's by. I'll think of his name, but in Fathead the Movie on YouTube, basically the guy, he eats fast food for 30 meals. It's just like the movie Super Size Me, except he eats fast food every single meal, 3 meals a day for 30 days. And the guy, he gains muscle mass, his cholesterol gets better, and he loses a little bit of weight by eating fast food every day. And his point is, if you go to a fast food restaurant and you watch your carbs, then you don't have to put on lots of weight just because you eat fast food. And that's as opposed to Super Size Me, where if you order a large fries and a milkshake and a giant regular soda with every meal, in addition to the hamburger buns, which contain carbs, then you will put on weight. So you can eat intelligently whether you're on a cruise or you're at McDonald's. You can make intelligent decisions by not ordering all the extra carbohydrates and do fine.
Well, that's true, doctor, but the fact is that not a lot of people know about this stuff, and that's where this show comes into play, is the fact that most people don't think about it. They're just I almost want to say zombie-like, but robots, because I was one of those where I just go through the drive-through, I eat whatever.
Yeah, whatever they offer,
that
you
looks
eat it.
good, I'll take that. Oh, you want the extra cream and gravy on that chicken fry? Yeah, you bet, brother. And mashed potatoes, bring them on. I mean, on and on and on. And this stuff just really jacks your insulin to the wall.
That's right, and insulin is the fat storage hormone in the human body. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, we'll take the call. Good morning, welcome into the show.
Yeah, I'm a bit confused on this wheat thing. It seems like maybe it was one of your programs, Wade. There might have been this doctor here that was talking about how wheat at one time, years ago, had been very good, but they changed it with the GMO, is that what they call it? Genetic?
Yeah, they well, of course, it was back in the 70s and restructured the chromosomes in wheat to get more of the product in the field. In other words,
that's right. So modern wheat, which became a staple of the American diet in the 1980s, it was not GMO the way we do GMO today, but it was hybridized in such a way that it has 17 new gluten proteins in it that were never previously in wheat. And so the wheat that we eat today is different than the wheat our grandmothers ate. It has 10 times the yield, so it feeds a lot more people, and it's great. In times of famine and starvation, you need. It's better to eat than to starve. But 17 new gluten proteins, your body tends to react to those. It doesn't know what they are. Also, it has more amylopectin A, I believe it's called, so it raises blood sugar more. So the wheat we eat today is more inflammatory and detrimental than the wheat our grandmothers ate. And it's even more different than the wheat that Jesus ate 2,000 years ago when he broke bread with the disciples, because that had even less gluten in it than ancient wheat, and less gluten, less amylopectin A to raise blood sugars and insulin levels, and more protein in it. So it's just not the same thing. Your grandmother could probably eat rolls every day and not put on the weight, but we don't have that luxury.
No, not anymore. Yeah.
Man, that's great. I understand that now. All right. Well, thanks a lot, guys.
Check out the book Wheat Belly by William Davis. You can find it at any bookstore or Amazon.
Davis, Wheat Belly. Okay.
And it goes into detail into all of it.
Yeah, and he was on the show yesterday morning. The guy that wrote the book, the New York Times best-selling author guy, he was actually on air with us yesterday morning, and great show. And always learn a lot when you guys come on the program, for sure. But I mean, it's fascinating, but it's not just one doctor saying it. It's something. Well, are we reaching the point now, Dr. Anderson, where you think that this is breaking to the point where it's going to go mainstream, or no? Are we still a long way from that?
You know, I was listening to one of the ag shows, and they were saying that gluten-free dog food is becoming a big deal. Yeah, I mean, gluten-free dog food, gluten-free human food. So I do think that it's becoming a bigger deal. But I personally don't try to get involved in the big picture. I try to deal with people one-on-one, deal with my clients, because I don't know that I can change the big picture and how everything works, but I can help people one person at a time through the metabolic coaching program. Other books that I recommend, Wheat Belly is a great one. It's a good starter. I had a client, one of the interesting questions is a client asked me, well, I'm going to do low carb. It's LCHF. It's low carb, high fat. And she said, well, how do I do it correctly? You know, I want to do the diet and do it correctly. And so it's not just about cutting out the carbs, but it's about what do you add in. And one of the books that I recommend is called Keto Adapted by Maria Emmerich. And Keto Adapted is one of the rare books that I can say I agree with everything she says. You know, because in a lot of books I'll say I have reservations about this, reservations about that. But Keto Adapted, it is a great book that really emphasizes how to do low carb and how to do it correctly. A second book that's also really good, I can't say I agree with 100% of it, is The Bulletproof Diet by Dave Asprey.
I've heard of that.
And in the Bulletproof Diet, he really emphasizes, you know, if you're going to do a low carbohydrate, high fat diet, then what kind of fats do you need to eat? You need to eat grass-fed beef, grass-fed butter, grass-fed dairy if you're going to have dairy, because it has more omega-3s. It's less inflammatory, and he emphasizes a lot MCT oil. MCT oil is MCT stands for medium chain triglyceride, and MCT oil, your body turns it directly into ketones, which it uses for energy instead of storing it away for fat. So if you want to know how to do low carb correctly, read Keto Adapted by Maria Emmerich and The Bulletproof Diet by Dave Asprey. One of the things I don't like about Dave Asprey is
I was going to ask you, what is it? Why do you don't like it?
Well, you know, the guy takes like 40 supplements a day. Because it's not just for him. It's not just about kind of weight loss and physical performance. It's about upping your mental performance. He sleeps 4 hours a night. He takes about 40 supplements a day, and so I for most average Americans, it's not a good trade to trade off a dozen medications a day for 40 supplements a day.
Yeah,
because that's just too expensive and not practical. And one of the things from the show yesterday is that at the very end of the show, Dr. Davis said, for people who have fibromyalgia, you know, 100% of those people have SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And so I get patients they come to the program with fibromyalgia, and when they go on a very low carbohydrate diet, their fibromyalgia gets better, their pain gets better, their energy level gets better, they feel better. But at the same time, people with fibromyalgia, because they have this intestinal issue, you know, they also need to take probiotics to help with that.
Maybe like a Restore or something like that. My wife, being a health coach and all, she's real big on that, making sure the gut flora is unbalanced and all disease starts in the gut and everything else. I agree with that. I mean, I get it, but I don't take it all the time. I need to take it more, but whatever.
There's the Prescript Assist seems to be a pretty good probiotic for people with fibromyalgia. And also I get the question, people will say, you know, I'm on this diet, my weight's all over the place. I'll be up 3 pounds one day, I'll be down 3 pounds, it seems like I'm gained 6 pounds this week and lost 5 pounds next week. You know, if it's all over the place, that usually indicates they have some sort of food sensitivity. So if you're one of those people whose weight is up and down all over the time, then there's a few things that you can do. Number one is I would take a daily weight every single morning and write it down and keep it on a chart. And you do that for 2 reasons. Number one, you take a daily weight so that if you want to track your weight loss, you just use the average. So write down all 7 days, average those 7 days, and so your average weight this week is 173 pounds. And then you average it out next week and it's 172 pounds. So you may be up 3 pounds, down 2 pounds, up and down, all over the place. But your average is what matters when you're tracking your weight. And looking at food sensitivities, lots of people, when they change their diet, not only do they cut out the carbs, but they'll add new things into their diet. And they may be sensitive to some of those new things. Those things may be inflammatory for them. And so any day when you've gained 2 pounds, like if you step on the scale in the morning and you're 2 pounds or more heavier than you were the day before, you need to look back at what you ate for the previous 48 hours. Because there's probably something in there that you're sensitive to. So the combination of daily weights plus a food diary can help you figure out foods that you're sensitive to that are inflammatory for you.
Could it be that some of those inflammatory foods or sensitivities could come from things that are low carb? In other words,
absolutely.
Like dairy or maybe some meats or something like that?
Yes, it could be dairy. That's common. And I'll tell you one story that I remember in particular is a client, and she said, I'm swelling up like a balloon on this diet. Is that normal? And I said, absolutely not. Because people, they lose fluid, the swelling goes away on a very low carbohydrate diet. And so we had to basically go through food diary, track what she was eating. And one of the things she added was a lot of fish. And farm-raised fish tends to be very inflammatory because the fish are sick, they're fed GMO corn, and the corn has been sprayed with chemicals and whatever, and they're in the farms, they're covered with sea lice, so they have to give them antibiotics to kill the sea lice and this sort of thing. And so as soon as she cut out the farm-raised fish, all the swelling went away. So there may be something like that you're adding that's low carb, but it's also very inflammatory. And daily weights plus a food diary will help you track that.
To the point, I read an article last week, I believe it was talking about tilapia and saying that a lot of the tilapia out there that you get at restaurants or even in the grocery stores are farm raised, and they're really not that healthy for you. But a lot of people for a long time thought, oh, I'll just get that. Those fillets are cheap, and and it's fish, which means it's got a lot of omega-3s in it and ought to be healthy. And a lot of guys are saying, a lot of researchers are saying, whoa, hold on.
Some of it is very inflammatory, make you very sick. And so you have in your mind, fish is healthy. And so if you're going to buy fish, buy wild caught. Something like wild-caught salmon or line-caught. And at Costco, you just get a big thing of wild-caught salmon fillets, and it's not too expensive if you do it that way. There's a lot of products, low-carb products you can buy at Costco. One is you buy the big, giant gallon thing of coconut oil. Because if you're going to do low-carb and you're going to do it right, then 50% of every cell membrane in your body is made out of saturated fat. Your body knows what to do with saturated fat, and so you can eat coconut oil. It's saturated fat. Also, the frozen wild-caught fish fillets, those are good. Almond flour is a great price at Costco, and in regular wheat flour has 92 net carbohydrates per cup, but almond flour has 9. So if you want something like a waffle, a pancake, a muffin, a cookie, you make it out of almond flour, and then it only has 1/10 the carbohydrate.
Yeah, but it still does spike the insulin, but not to the degree, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, it's going to be like 1/10 the degree,
right?
Not to the degree.
Sure.
That's exactly right.
And again, as far as spiking insulin, the worst thing you can do is potatoes. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Everybody always thinks, oh, the good old Irish potato, but that'll jack it to the wall, right?
Yeah. So glycemic index of even bread is 71. Glycemic index of a baked russet potato is 111.
Wow.
And maltodextrin, which is like a food additive, is 114. And as far as I know, that's about as high as the glycemic index goes. The glycemic index of pure glucose, which is the same thing as blood sugar, is 100. And so it means that a baked russet potato spikes your blood sugar even higher than pure glucose does.
Wow.
Another interesting thing.
No fries with that burger, please.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that's the French fries, the baked potato, the mashed potato. Is that we mentioned a little bit about the bacteria in your digestive tract, and people who are thin tend to have different bacteria in their digestive tract than people who are overweight or obese. And in fact, for digestive problems, something called Clostridium difficile, which is like a dangerous and can be a deadly diarrhea problem, they'll do what's called a stool transplant. You ever heard of that?
Oh, I have.
Yeah.
It sounds really obnoxious.
So, but they take bacteria from a healthy person and they put it into the digestive tract of somebody who has this disease, and it fixes the disease. It repopulates their bacteria, their digestive tract with healthy bacteria. Well, what they found is in rats and sometimes in humans, if they do a stool transplant from a very thin person to an overweight person, the overweight person will lose some weight. And if they do a stool transplant from an overweight person to a thin person, the thin person gains weight and gets bigger. And so that's because people who tend to be normal weight, they have this bacteria in their digestive tract that produces butyric acid or butyrate. And so the question is, well, how can I get that digestive bacteria that produces butyrate? And there's two different ways you can get butyrate. Number one, grass-fed butter. So butter from grass-fed cows itself contains butyric acid. And so you can add butyrate to your digestive tract, which is like the skinny people signaling molecule, just by eating grass-fed butter, switching over to grass-fed butter. Or you can feed your own bacteria in your digestive tract, to feed the butyrate producing bacteria, and you can do that with grass-fed collagen and grass-fed gelatin, because the bacteria will eat the collagen and gelatin and make butyrate. That's how you feed those good bacteria. And surprisingly, coffee and dark chocolate. Coffee and dark chocolate, we're talking like 85% dark or more, so 85% or more dark chocolate. The coffee and dark chocolate contains polyphenols, and the polyphenols, those also help to feed that good butyrate producing bacteria, which is kind of like the skinny people bacteria in your digestive tract.
I've read that too, and I've also said that, or read that it was 2 cups a day, and that's plenty. Now some people may want 3 or 4 cups a day, but they also say don't do it after 12 noon if you plan on, if you're a nighttime, because then you start jacking with your sleep and all that. But if you're going to drink coffee, that's fine. If you want 2 or 3 cups in the morning, that's fine. But not anything added, just black coffee.
Well, this is from the book, The Bulletproof Diet. This is Dave Asprey's book, and in that book he says,
does he get kind of goofy about organic coffee and all that kind of stuff, or no?
Well, he says that the number one source of antioxidants in the average American's diet is coffee. So that's the number one source of antioxidants for most people. And so coffee is not a bad thing. Now what he does is he recommends, number one, that you use like a metal filter or a French press instead of using a paper filter. Because if you use a paper filter with your coffee, then those polyphenols are oils. The oils stick to the paper filter, they don't get into your coffee. If you use a metal filter or a French press, then the oils, they drip through and they get into your coffee. So you can use those polyphenol oils to feed your good bacteria.
That's something I have not heard before.
He does get big into basically Dave Asprey. He sells his own coffee, and that's because he's big into fungal toxins, and there are a lot of fungal toxins found in coffee, and so he sells his own coffee, which is tested for fungal toxins and found to be negative for fungal toxins, because he believes that the fungal toxins affect your performance a lot.
Interesting.
You know, and he sells several different products. And I'll tell you the thing about metabolic coaching. The program that I do, metabolic coaching, I don't sell anything. I don't sell supplements, pills, injections. All it is information. So we go through and we do a 2-hour introductory course and talk about how all these different foods affect your weight, your insulin levels, your diabetes, your blood pressure. And then I follow up with you for 3 months. And during that time, I give you additional information, some tools and stuff to keep you on track. But I don't try to sell you meals or shakes or supplements along the way.
Yeah. I always wondered about, you know, again, there is arguments for and against whether or not, you know, some of these kinds of things, you know, grow hair on a cue ball really works or not. But nevertheless, you know, again, that's for the individual consumer to kind of rationalize or look at. But that's new. I haven't heard about the polyphenols being caught by the paper, because I use on our coffee pot over here, I use a paper filter only because it's cleaner, the mess, you know. I mean, otherwise, if I poured it, I could pour it right into the metal screen there and do it. Maybe I ought to start doing it that way. But it would take an extra step for me to go wash that out.
That's right.
And so it's kind of like, oh, I'm lazy. So maybe I'll get rid of the paper filter. How about that?
I'll tell you.
I don't know.
The one last thing that that Dave Asprey, not one, he recommends a lot of things, but the one thing he advocates to put. You want to get rid of the fat people bacteria in your digestive tract and promote the skinny people. So you promote the skinny people bacteria with collagen, grass-fed butter,
right,
and the dark chocolate and polyphenols from the coffee. But you put pressure on the bad bacteria with the MCT oil.
Mm-hmm.
And regular coconut oil is 6% medium chain triglycerides. But MCT oil, which you can buy at health food stores, you can even find it at like Market Street. The MCT oil is going to be 95 or 100% medium chain triglycerides. And the MCT oil helps to put pressure on those bad bacteria to get rid of them in your digestive tract.
And there's millions and millions of different strains of bacteria in the gut. We all know that. And some of them are extremely good and important to us, but some of them are also bad. So I totally get that.
Yep.
All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll come right back. Stick around. We got plenty to go right here on the show. Stick around. Dr. Justin Anderson, Metabolic Coaching, right here on AM 580. Welcome back in to Cut the Killer Carbs. Dr. Justin Anderson, Metabolic Coaching. Check out the website, metabolic-coaching.net. Phone number, direct phone number to Dr. Anderson, 448-0322. That's 448-0322. So yeah, we got some time left here on the program. And what else do you want to get into? It's, you know, it's kind of interesting as we talk about these things. And I think, again, overall education is the key. I know that there's a lot of people out there. I think it, you know, I know you say it's not breaking into mainstream, but I do know that I think, or my belief is that most people are starting to understand that, you know, a lot of sugar in your diet, not good. Breads, you know, watch that. Pastas, you know, anything that can, you know, spike that insulin up. But the numbers, I think, where people don't know, right? In other words, saying, well, what kind of carb load are we talking about? Your program says 20 carbs or less per day.
Yeah, so
others say, well, 50. Others say, oh, well, you know, just a carb cycle, as we kind of talked about during the
let me
tell you,
carb
cycle.
Wade's carb cycling regimen.
Yeah.
So he's got it backwards. He does 6 days of carbs and 1 day low carb.
Yes,
you got to switch it the other way. 6 days of low carb. Yeah. So basically, if I was going to describe the metabolic coaching program, it's a 3-month program of a wheat-free, gluten-free, sugar-free. Because wheat, gluten, and sugar are the 3 most inflammatory foods that also happen to make you fat. So it's wheat-free, gluten-free, sugar-free, very low carbohydrate, ketogenic diet.
Well,
and that's less than 20 net carbs a day to get you into ketosis.
What about the corn and stuff? I mean, corn, when you throw corn in there?
Yeah, corn is one of the ones to cut out, but I will tell you that I do occasionally have a corn tortilla, or I do occasionally one corn tortilla, 11 net carbs, the kind that we get. So,
so you carb cycle too?
No, it's not a carb cycle. I just count the carbs.
You count the carbs, right? Okay.
True carb cycling would be eating less than 20 net carbs a day, 6 days a week, and then 1 day a week you would add either a cup of rice or a cup of sweet potato to your diet. And so that 1 day a week you do boost your insulin levels, but it helps some people who are becoming, there's something called physiologic insulin resistance, where you're very low carb for a very long time, and you do that and you become you become insulin resistant just because you haven't had any carbohydrates. And so 1 day a week there's a carb day but it's not a cheat day, and it's not wheat, which is inflammatory, and it's not sugar. It's something plain that's very non-reactive, like white rice or sweet potato, 1 cup 1 day a week. And I would say that's one of the strategies that we use for people who get stuck, is to have a carb cycling day.
All right, text coming in says, what does the doctor charge for his coaching?
It's $3,000 a month. I'm just joking.
Yeah, right.
No, I've tried to make the program affordable for anybody who wants to do it. It's $49 a month for 3 months. And for that $49 a month, you do the 2-hour introductory session, and then we have follow-up sessions every Friday. You can come to as many follow-up sessions as you want. I also send you an email about twice a week with tips and tricks and things to keep you on track. And if you have questions, you can get your questions answered at the follow-up sessions, or get your questions answered by text or email, usually within 48 hours. By me personally, and it's $49 a month. That's it.
Yeah, well, which is a good, again, it's the educational piece aspect to it, because a lot of people just don't know, but they start. Now, my co-host, Colonel Dave Lewis, he heard your program a few months back, and in fact, he told me this, I think it was last week, we were in a commercial break, and I noticed that he had lost some weight and looking good and all that. And he goes, I'm doing what Dr.
Just cut the carbs.
Anderson was talking about. And I said, did you get his program? And I just listened to him and did what he said. And he's lost weight.
So that's the other thing.
I was like, wow.
If you want the live coaching with live follow-ups with support by me, by text and email messaging, you can pay $49 a month, 3-month minimum. But if you don't want to pay and you just want to do the program for free, go to metaboliccoaching.net. That's the website. It's a .net, not a .com. Click on the free content tab, and on the free content tab there are written instructions, links to a 6-hour seminar you can watch, which lays it all out, a seminar that I did. Even the subconscious reprogramming audio tracks, which work.
I've listened to those.
Which work kind of like hypnosis. You can listen to those for free. So if you want to do the program for free, like Dave, you can just do it right there.
That's what he did.
The only thing you don't get is the live coaching,
which is, by the way, a big benefit. Greg also coming back in, texting, what time are the classes? They're on Friday, right? But when?
Yeah, so we do a class every Friday from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. That's the introductory session. That's where all new people come, 1:30 to 3:30. And then the follow-ups are every Friday from 3:30 to 4:30. I also do a online course, online webinar. I do that one Tuesday a month. I think the next one's coming up, the 15th or the 18th. And we do that from 7 to 9 p.m. for people who can't make the live course on Fridays. If I could get on this date, then I would confirm. Yeah, the next webinar is August 15th. And it's a webinar plus 3 months follow-up. It's not live follow-up, but it's follow-up by email, text messaging, and that's only $75 for 3 months. So it's a little less expensive to do the course online. We have been doing some Wednesday follow-ups from 5:30 to 6:30 for those people who can't make the Friday afternoon. And I'm not exactly sure what that schedule is going to look like in August.
Okay. All right, so hopefully that answered Greg's question there. Okay.
The one of the other questions that I get periodically is people will say, I have bad breath. They'll say, I'm doing low carb and I have bad breath. And they call that keto breath. It's ketosis. And some of it's from dry mouth, and some of it's from when you're burning ketones, you actually release some acetone in your breath. And so you can deal with that. There's a couple of ways to deal with that that are real easy. Number one, for most people, if they do develop bad breath on a very low carbohydrate, first of all, it's rare. Less than 10% of people are going to get it. Second of all, if it does happen, the bad breath or the keto breath, usually it's temporary. It lasts 6 weeks or less. Third, one of the things that can help is make sure you add salt to your diet. You can take a teaspoon of Himalayan sea salt, just dissolve it in water. You can take that twice a day. Because what happens is when you're on a regular diet, when you're on a regular American diet, which is 65% carbohydrates, they tell you, cut the salt, cut the salt, cut the salt. But once you get on a very low carbohydrate diet, your salt balance starts to normalize. And when your salt balance starts to normalize, you actually need more salt. And there's two doctors, Finney and Volek, who do a lot of studies on very low carbohydrate ketogenic diets. And they supplement everybody with an extra 2 to 5 grams of salt every day. That's because on a low carbohydrate diet, you need more salt. And so you take more salt, that helps to moisturize your mouth, because moisture in your body is salt water.
Yeah.
It's not just water, it's salt water. The second thing that you can do is wait, because within about 6 weeks, the bad breath is gone for almost everybody. The third thing that I've found really useful for all sorts of oral problems is right before you go to bed, right before you crawl into bed, put just a little bit of coconut oil in your mouth and just leave it there. And that coconut oil kills some of the bad breath causing bacteria in your mouth.
Where does skull long cut fit into that equation? Do you know?
Well, the thing about the skull long cut is that it means you probably need some coconut oil in your mouth at night before you go to bed.
I just had to
You're
ask.
in, and it just helps your general overall oral health.
Right.
And I can tell you that, you know, from a teeth cleaning standpoint, putting coconut oil, a little coconut oil in my mouth before bed every single night has really kept the plaque and the tartar and all that stuff and the dark stuff from building up on my teeth personally. So it helps with the smell, it helps with oral health, it helps keep your teeth clean.
All right, another text coming in says, doing the low carb, high fat diet, please help me poop. I'm taking fiber 3 times a day.
Poop. Okay, I got the poop email.
Miralax at night, help. So I've noticed that too, especially when I do intermittent fasting with a low carb diet.
If you're not eating, you don't need to poop.
Well, I know that, but you know, it's kind of weird if you go a day or 2 or 3 and you're like, okay, what's up with that?
And the guy who did the world's longest fast, which is like 380 days or something like that.
Yeah.
He got into a natural rhythm where he pooped once a month.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, if you're fasting, then you very well may not need
I
to.
interjected my own thing. This person, it's
I was doing low carb. Okay.
Yeah, they don't. I don't think they're doing fasting like me.
So I'll tell you, if you're doing low carb and you're having trouble and you're constipated, then there's a few things that I do. Number one, I mix up a fiber supplement, and it's half powdered psyllium husk and half milled flaxseed. So it's half powdered psyllium husk, half milled flaxseed, and I swish that around in water, and I drink it quickly, and I drink it right before bed. So that's a fiber that I take daily. But you also need, in addition to some of that like soluble fiber, you need roughage, literal roughage, and that was like lettuce, like romaine lettuce,
spinach.
Yeah, and so some, you know, people may say iceberg lettuce is devoid of nutrients, but iceberg lettuce has that roughage, which also helps. And one of the things that the majority, when you're doing low carb, high fat diet, the majority of your calories come from fat. But when you look at your plate, the majority of your plate ought to be green leafy vegetables. So a giant, you know, if you're going to have a big, beautiful ribeye steak, there also ought to be a big, giant salad there. Okay, so the lettuce, the roughage, that's going to help with constipation too. And I've found that it's not just taking fiber that helps, but it's the combination of fiber plus a lot of green leafy vegetables that helps with the digestion. Also, anytime you take fiber, you need to take lots of water, because if you take fiber without water, it makes a plug. Fiber without water makes a plug, and that plug just sits there in your digestive tract and makes you more constipated. So if you're going to take fiber, drink a lot of water with it also, and then it makes something to help you with that.
Okay, so she or he texts back in and says, "Oh, I am fasting." Well, then there's your answer, because I do that too. I mean, fasting will slow it down a lot.
The third thing to do is the grass-fed butter.
Mm-hmm.
More grass-fed butter, and I don't know the mechanism. I don't know exactly why. So I would say fiber, which is the milled flaxseed plus psyllium husk. Mix those half and half. You can take I usually take a couple of tablespoons of it at night with a lot of water. And people will say, well, you drink a lot of water, does that mean you have to get up at night and go to the bathroom? No, you don't, because the psyllium husk and the flaxseed, they absorb the water in your digestive tract, so you don't have to get up and urinate. You don't have to get up and go number one at night. So the fiber plus lots of green leafy vegetables plus the grass-fed butter, I found that works great.
You know what I found that works great? And I'm being totally serious. I know you're laughing.
I got a bad feeling about this. What?
I'm being totally serious. Beer. Drinking a couple of beers, that'll get it going. I don't know what it is, but if I'm fasting and if I took a couple of days, I'm like, man, I don't know. I drink a couple of beers, 3 beers, and it's like clean out time. I mean, it really is. I don't know if it's the hops and barley in there or what it is.
It's probably.
But it really loosens things up.
Probably the wheat and the gluten and the yeast really irritating your digestive tract.
Oh, yeah, that's what
causing
my wife says.
Lots of inflammation and irritation and causing the problem. So I don't recommend beer for its laxative effects. Okay. And I don't recommend it on a low-carb diet. You're in my prayers, Wade. I'm praying for you, thinking about you.
Yeah.
Yeah. On a low-carb diet, you need to add fiber plus a lot of water. Fiber plus water together. A lot of green leafy vegetables on your plate. That's at lunch and dinner. And add grass-fed butter.
Okay.
Those things tend to help.
Okay. Well, all right. That will. But
you buy Kerrygold grass-fed butter at Costco.
Well, I don't ever shop at Costco.
We need to get Costco as a sponsor.
Yeah,
of the
we
show.
need to, but I don't shop at Costco. I don't have even a membership there.
You can buy it at Market Street.
Well, yeah,
it's just less expensive at Costco.
You can get it in Natural Health Market or Vitamins Plus and all that stuff too. But nevertheless, that's good points, Doctor. Appreciate that. Any final thoughts before we wrap up this morning? I'm glad we kind of got through the shellfish and beer.
I'm done. I'm worn out.
That the Wade Wilkes cure.
No, I'll just tell you, a low carb. If you want to control your blood sugar, if you want to lose weight, you want to improve your blood pressure, you want to improve your health, you want to take less medication, the best way I can recommend for people to do that is a very low carbohydrate diet. And
sure.
I'd love to teach you how. You can visit metaboliccoaching.net and schedule to come in and join us. We'll get started.
Absolutely. Metaboliccoaching.net. Again, the direct number, 448-0322, 448-0322. Cut the Killer Carbs on Facebook as well. Check it out right there on Facebook. Dr. Justin Anderson, we appreciate it, sir. Look forward to seeing you back here next Tuesday on the show. You might want to put my remedy in your book at some point.
That's going to be there. Shellfish and beer.
Shellfish and beer.
Thanks, Wade.
Stick around. Unconfused coming up next right here on AM 580.